Welcome back, y'all. Hope you're in for a chatty vlog today, as we have so many updates when it comes down to the farm, especially some kittens that I think we're going to be acquiring, lots of baking with all the Georgia peaches, and then really just some thoughts on stewarding what you have well, and really the seasonality that is life. But I'll leave you guys with that. Hope you guys will stick around. Alright, so we just went and picked up the goodies. We got 25 pounds of some Georgia pizzas, one of which Sam has already gotten into, as you guys can see. But as a whole, cannot wait. We have a lot of I have a lot of recipes in mind, including I think some peach jam, maybe a peach butter. Of course, you have to make peach cobbler. And then I want to make a peach tart or like a peach galette. So we shall see. So, in regards to the thought of stewarding what you have well in the seasonality of life, recently I feel as though I've really been convicted of the fact that I am not currently stewarding our current living situation to the best of my abilities. Meaning that because I know that this is temporary, so for those of you guys that may be new, we are actually currently living in the basement of my in-laws' house so that we can work towards building our house out on the land that we've just acquired. And in doing so, kind of build our dream farm and really lifestyle as a whole from the ground up. But I've kind of given myself, I guess, an out, if you will, to not make the most of our current living situation because it's, quote, short term. But this short-term situation has now very quickly surpassed our longest living arrangement of our entire marriage. So I came into this with a very backwards mindset. So what I want to now is try to bring in the beauty and care that I would for my own home, that I would for what I would now consider to be our current home living arrangement. Hence the reason why I'm trying to beautify the space with flowers, take more pride in terms of keeping it clean, and part of that comes down to really just creating habits and rhythms and finding places as much as possible where everything goes so that everything that is currently within this basement has a home of its own. So as we kind of see, the blankets and the pillows go everywhere every single day with the dogs. Blankets kind of get strewn about the couch, but there's no excuse for not picking this up either first thing in the morning or right before we go to bed at night. And that can make a world of difference, especially now that I'm working from home. If my house is chaotic, my mind is chaotic as well, and it just makes me feel more anxious than I really have any reason to be. So that's really been on my mind here recently. And with that too, we've had two very beautiful homes, and honestly, I'll be very honest, this current living situation, I know is a very blessed arrangement. We have our own essentially little apartment. It could be that we just had a room in their house, and albeit we are just thankful and beyond grateful they're letting us live here to even begin with, because otherwise this whole dream and plan would never come to fruition. So all that to be said, I want to make the most and take care of this house in the season of life to the best of our ability, and in doing so, it's already taught me so much. Because if I have this dream and desire for this 30-acre farm with this gorgeous dream house one day, then I need to be, one, a good steward of what I currently have, so that I can then exemplify that in a grander scenario in the terms of a larger house and larger land. And to that point too, it's kind of funny when you, of course, have friends and family with farms and just farm animals. Life kind of shows you the seasonality on its own. So recently, our future neighbor, actually, her kitten that they had rescued, they found out was pregnant. And so I think that we've now agreed to take care of 3 of those kittens so that one day when we are out on this farm, God willing, here in the next year and a half, that they can then become our barn cats, or even quite frankly move out to our in-laws' barn to start kind of being the little mice protectors in a sense, or mice exterminators in a sense going forward. But wanted to share that with you. I certainly have a lot more thoughts on this topic. I could probably make a whole video, but I'm just going to leave that there now because there's so much I want to share in terms of these kittens and such. You can hear their cute mewing and such as well.
You're so cute.
There comes Mama. Mama checking on the babies. Yeah. Oh, we got another one over there now. Guys, these are so stinking cute. This one keeps coming over to say hi. I think I like you. You and your buddy? You're so cute. Alright, we have all the kittens currently. So I think that one's claimed. We have this little cutie, which is the runt, which I think is also already claimed. We have a little smoky one right here. And then we have the two that are currently playing with each other over here. So I think we want this one. The door was open. I didn't open it. Alright, so I'm currently back out on the farm. Just got done hanging out with Jenna, future neighbor, and our sweet baby Cade. Absolutely amazing time. We even got to see the kittens that I think we're going to get a hold of a few of, but I'm out checking on the Christmas trees, and it looks like right now we might be at like a 50% success rate. Considering we're not out here, but like honestly it looks like every 2 weeks at this point. I'm not too upset, but let me go ahead and flip you around and show you what they look like right now. Alright, so I'm currently in the last row that was planted, and therefore some of them didn't do well because they were just hanging out for a solid month before we even got them planted. So as you can tell, this one has grown quite a bit. They were about yay big-ish when they were planted. Here's another one. Doing okay. There's a couple others. You can see him right there. There's that one. He's doing really good. This one, last time we were here, and again it's debatable as it looks right now, but he was just a stick, but he came back. So we'll see how they go. This one is absolutely entirely gone. As you can tell, all there is, oh, we have maybe a chance. He's a little brittle though, but that's how they're looking. Let's go find the good ones. Alright, here's one that's doing quite good. There's some that are even better than this though. What I'm doing is currently going through and trying to find the ones that are buried. So you would not know there is a tree at all stuck in here. Again, if you are a professional farmer, please don't come for me. This is not intended to be a hobby farm, but again, we aren't out here yet. So this is just the learning year, aka meaning we did all this somewhat as an experiment. So right now, half the field currently has cardboard in it, testing out that for weed suppression and keeping the moisture in. The other section we've kind of somewhat let go wild, but we're using the natural, we'll say, forage around it to kind of make a miniature ecosystem. So far, honestly, it's working. So if I flip you around, again, you won't be able to see this tree, but he's actually doing quite well. All right, so see if you can spot the tree. If I start kind of removing this around, as you can see, he's hiding in there. And he's doing quite good. I'm gonna go ahead and trim some of this back just with my hand. Didn't really bring any tools because we're supposed to get storms and I can hear him coming. But I'm just gonna trim this back a little bit. That way he'd get a little bit of light, and I'll throw it down here just to kind of help with the moisture. All right, this one I think is currently the biggest, and therefore I think he's my favorite, but he even still has lower branches compared to the others. Which I know that looks like nothing, but show you this guy. This is one that had more sun exposure, therefore I think he got burnt. And then also he had some weed pressure stealing his water source. So we fixed that. Boy, does our property look absolutely wild right now. Look at this. Trees are all the way back out there, but eventually, hopefully, else will be there. Check on the creek. By this time last year, we actually didn't have a creek anymore. It really is the littlest of things that can make people happy.
I hope you guys don't mind this atrocious angle, but I wanted to give you an update on the Christmas trees.
And if you can hear the rain, again, I'm sorry for that too, but it is what it is. But when I first got to the property, I thought we had maybe about a 50% or so success rate, which again, I would be completely happy with. I don't think we've been out to the property in nearly a month now. So whatever happens is to be expected, but it actually appears as though we are currently looking at about a 75% success rate, which is nearly where we were the last time that I was out of the property. Last time I was there, I was kind of estimating roughly around about 80%. So there were some that were just honestly a little bit spent by the time we got them in the ground. So I kind of foresaw that might not turn out the best. They already were struggling. But those, of course, didn't make it. But all the rest that I thought were doing okay are still doing quite well, which is a very happy surprise. So that's currently where we are on the Christmas trees. I'm hoping to plant more next year, maybe in a little bit better of a manner. I was also able to go ahead and set up a mulch drop here for sometime the next month or two, whenever they are able to do it, from some local arborists around us. So a lot of times they're looking for places to get rid of their mulch from the projects that they're doing. So we're just going to take whatever we can get. We'll use that to kind of make pathways between the trees, I think is the current plan. That way we don't have as much weed pressure. But otherwise, I don't think we have any other plans for the farm this year, aside from getting the tulips and the daffodils that we ordered this spring into the ground for fall. That way they come up next spring, which I'm very much looking forward to that. I think our current plan is to essentially line the entire creek to the best of our ability. So I think we got a box of 1,000 tulips, and I think we got 500 daffodils. So that should spread us quite a good bit, especially if we don't do it too densely, which again, I love daffodils. I would almost argue they are one of my favorite flowers, if not my favorite flower. But very much looking forward to that. I'm also just looking forward to getting to share all this with friends and family. Like right now, of course, that's just with our future neighbor, Jenna. And we were talking all about hydrangeas and just landscaping that we like to do. And just one, of course, it is expensive, so you have to do it on a slow manner, and or one, use time to your benefit, because things like tulips and daffodils do multiply, just at a slow rate, albeit. And then we were talking about hydrangeas, because she was just put some hydrangeas in her front and backyard around her porches. And I think what I'm hoping to do, either later today or tomorrow, weather dependent, is I want to go ahead and try to propagate some of my mother-in-law's hydrangeas. So she has these massive limelight hydrangeas that she's considering taking out. They are blocking her current windows at her house. So while it's the perfect time of year, I want to take some cuttings and try to get, I think, between maybe 20 or more plants from that if it all goes to plan. So I'll take you guys along for that too. But the last little update, I hope you guys can forgive this really chatty section. Heck, maybe you like it, I don't know. But the other thing I wanted to just talk to you guys about is, I don't know if any of you guys are like this, but for some reason, I've always been this way, but nature speaks to me so much more, or like I see God's hand in nature so much more than I ever see it, unfortunately, in a church service per se. And I don't say that all the time, but there is just something that when you are driving around, seeing all these good-hearted country folk, and seeing all these animals and livestock taking care of their young, and the innate things going on there, and just the pure simplicity of life, and how beautiful the more rural sections of this country are. Honestly, any country. Also, if you hear me driving on the bumps, that's because there are a bunch of livestock trailers coming by on a very small road. But anyways, what I was trying to say is, I see God's hand in nature so evidently. And every time I go for a drive out in the country or go to our property, it almost can bring me to tears, quite frankly. But probably about half an hour away from home, so we still got a bit. But I'll update you guys with what we get up to later. Hopefully it involves some propagating. The peaches are not ready yet, so I don't think we'll be getting into that, unfortunately, today, and maybe not even tomorrow. But I'm gonna do something fun, so we'll see what that holds. So let's just say the weekend vlog has now kind of transformed into a week or a couple days of my life vlog.
So essentially what I brought you guys along to yesterday was I actually went with Sam to work because he was throwing a goodbye party for one of his workers. So I went and prepped all the food for him, little charcuterie boards, little sandwiches, what the person that was leaving wanted. So that's what yesterday entailed, alongside of course, some private client work here and there. But afterwards, since we were together and we had the time, we actually went over to some of the shed places here around us in Kentucky to figure out what we are doing. So right now, ever since we moved home, we have had a storage unit that we've kept all of our stuff in because, quite frankly, we are very blessed to have a lot of things we don't necessarily want to give up, such as quality furniture and a lot of memories in terms of like Christmas decor, ornaments, and the like. So right now we're trying to figure out what to do with all of that stuff and or where we can store it, because we are tired of paying the money that we're currently paying for a storage unit. We've run the math. At this point, we can get a very nice shed for the price that we are currently paying a month in rent to the storage unit, and therefore we'd actually own something that would be beneficial to us in the future for the same price. So we are currently leaning towards that. However, I thought we had given up on the whole, we'll say, temporary housing aspect, and now Sam is possibly in the mood, or just the current thought process, to consider going back into the idea of kind of transforming essentially a little getaway cabin that they sell that's honestly rather large into a temporary housing, we'll say for, I don't know, 4 to 5 years, give or take. And during that time, we would completely pay off the land, save up yet again for a new down payment for the quote dream house. And that would be the plan. But I'll leave that there for now. Obviously, everything's very much up in the air, so I'm not going to go too much further into that. But today anyways, today is currently Wednesday. And right now I just got back, as you can see, from the grocery store because I want to do a lot of baking. My peaches are finally ready. And also picked up some of the cold brew from Berserker Brew that Sam and I absolutely love. So, need to get in. I don't have too much time. I have about an hour or so before I need to get ready for my clients here in the afternoon. But I think it's just enough time to hopefully make myself a little peach puff pastry situation. There was no puff pastry dough at the store today, so we're going to try it with croissants and see how that goes instead. But I will keep you guys updated and take you guys along in the process. Alright guys, I'm back home now. As you can tell, I'm currently prepping the peaches for the peach galette, peach puff pastry situation that we are creating. My plan originally was to... Sorry, I'm trying not to cut myself as I do this and talk. My original plan was to do a peach puff pastry, but because that wasn't an option, as I told you guys earlier, we're going to try it with croissant dough and see how that goes. So I'll take you guys along. Right now I'm throwing my peaches. As you can see, I've got about 3 so far in here, alongside of some butter, sugar, and flour. You could probably go ahead and add in, if you wanted to, either, we'll say, almond extract, some vanilla extract. Honestly, I think maybe a bourbon extract would probably be quite delicious in this too. But right now what I'm doing is just going to assess if I think that this is enough. I think for the size of dough that we are using, I think 3 is going to be good. So I'm just going to mix these up. Next thing after this, we are going to roll out the the croissant dough to act as our puff pastry. And then we'll go on from there. But beyond this, the other things that I have on the docket to hopefully get around to making, since the box of peaches from the peach truck are now almost entirely ripe, we have on the docket peach jam, peach butter, peach scones, probably 1 to 3 different peach cobblers for friends and family, and then some peach breads. And then I also found this like peach pistachio, like cream cheese style tart that I'm gonna make an option of. We'll see how that goes. I'll see how much I can take you guys along for. Honestly, I'm trying to get this done before my client's here soon, so let's get rolling that dough out. So this is all they had. This is what we're going to try it with. Obviously, if I had the time, I would make it myself, but nobody here is perfect, and no one has time to be making croissant dough on a whim. Alright, so we're going to obviously have to fix the fact that it has perforated seams. Going to overlap these guys. Also, this very well may be one of those things where it's a don't do what I do. But you can never find new recipes if you don't try. Alright, a lot of finagling later, and this is what we have. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take that bowl of our peach mixture and put it in here. And then what we're going to do is hopefully just tuck all the edges in. You certainly can make your peaches look pretty if you would like. I'm gonna check the time, see if I have time to do that. If we do, we will. If we don't, we won't. All right, I don't have time to make it pretty, so we're just gonna kind of push all this to the middle. And then what we're gonna do is pull these corners in. All right, we got our egg wash. We're just gonna put this all over the edges so it gets nice and crispy. Another thing that you could do if you really wanted to is you probably could throw this in the freezer for just a little bit and see how that sets up, because right now there is a little bit of melted butter that could somewhat alter the current taste and texture on the inside, but we're experimenting. Again, this is not me teaching you what I'm doing, this is me taking you along as we experiment. So if you're watching this and you're like, girl, what are you doing? Just know that I don't know what I'm doing either. We are just trying something that we got an inspo from Pinterest and trying our best. All right, the last thing that we have to do is just put some coarse sugar on top. So I've got me a little bit of sugar in my hand, probably a little bit more than I need to. We're gonna drizzle this around the edges. All right, now we're just gonna throw it in the oven. Okay, I think it still could go a little bit longer, just a little bit. Alright guys, so this is how it turned out so far. I think the edges crisped up quite nice. The bottom's a little bit on the softer side, of course, so I'm hoping it turns out good, but it did set up quite nice, as you can see. Alright, welcome back. Another day, another recipe. Today we have 2 different sizes of peach cobblers that we're going to try to make. My in-laws know that, of course, that we bought the fruit, and she has just been itching for us to make some peach cobbler, or really any kind of peach dessert. So yesterday I showed you guys that, we'll just say a take on a peach galette. Overall, I would say, honestly, given the fact that it was like maybe a 5-minute dessert, it was actually quite good. But I don't think it compares to like a really good peach cobbler, or honestly some of the other recipes that I intend to make here in the next couple days. So I'm hoping this turns out better. Honestly, I'm just really craving this right now. I've already had 2 peaches today, and honestly I could just eat almost this whole box. That and all my peaches are now starting to actually get very ripe very quickly, so I think we have perfect timing for this weekend to do all of the peach jam, peach butters that I was hoping to make. So that will be honestly what keeps me busy when I'm not working this weekend. Otherwise, we'll see what we get up to. Right now I know that we have dinner with friends tonight. And then I know that on Saturday night, we actually have a bonfire with our future neighbors. So overall, many good things in store. And I just am very thankful for this life that I get to live. Thankful for this new stage of work. And I'm just thankful for all the friends that we now have in our life. 'Cause it's quite different than where things were back when we were living in E-Town in our first home. Honestly, at that point, it was a very lonely life because, one, we were very young for, we'll say, married couples. I think we were 22 and 23 when we got married. And so all of our friends didn't even have any kind of serious relationships at that point, much less getting married. And so now we have actually a fair bit of married friends around us, which makes it all the more special to kind of get to do something so important as in marriage and walking through life with each other. And sometimes I guess, well, not say the challenges, because I don't think it's necessarily challenging, but just some of the things that sometimes come up when you're sharing your life and sharing spaces with people. Now that we have other friends that we can kind of talk to about things like that, and like honestly, they can understand why we don't always want to go do things, because quite frankly, Sam is truly my best and closest friend, and all I really want to do is just be around him most of the time anyways. So now that we have friends that are getting in that similar stage of life and can understand that, they understand that we don't always want to get together and do things, but when we do, it is nice to have people in similar life phases as us to talk through that with. That was a very long, rambly chat, my bad. If you stayed through that, kudos to you. Smells It smells so good. Alright, so we combined everything. Right now, this is what we are working with. So we have gently mixed in the filling just a little bit. That way it integrates, because I do like it slightly saturated, not just like straight peaches on the bottom, crumb on top. So now we're just going to take this up to the oven and bake it. Alright, peach cobblers out of the oven. Honestly, I don't think it turned out as good as I liked it to, especially because, honestly, I think the butter needed to be mixed better than it was potentially, and/or honestly, I think it needed more butter. So it didn't really brown up too well other than on the edges here. If I let it go any longer, then these edges would have browned up too much, but I'm sure it's going to taste great nonetheless. Alright, I am just the absolute worst about keeping up with vlogging this week, it seems. But currently working on another peach recipe. So today we're working on peach scones. So I'm getting the scone base ready to go, and then I'm just going to fold in these peaches that I have diced up back here. And then they'll be ready to go in the oven. I do think for this recipe, because it's not a very sweet scone, I probably will do like a little glaze on top. Alright, yeah, that's looking good. Also, I will say, one of the biggest things I found with scones is you don't want to overwork the dough too much, especially before you fold in your toppings, because oftentimes then you either A, warm up the butter too much, or B, sometimes can just make a very tough dough. But anyways, gonna keep folding these in and then throw them in the oven. Alright, so I will say this is the consistency we're working with. If you can see that, it is kind of on the wetter side. If you were doing the whole make a mound, cut it into 6 or 8 pieces thing, then maybe you don't use a wet recipe. I, on the other hand, have been given this little scone pan. I don't know why I was blanking on that so hard. I've been given a scone pan from my mother from the thrift store. So what I do, on the other hand, is just kind of form them into little chunks, and I will press them into the slot. Ooh, maybe if you spray it first. Also, you can probably get away with not doing that, but the one time I didn't do it, it did get kind of stuck on the bottom, and I don't want to repeat that. So now I've just started spraying it just to make sure they just pop right on out real easily. So it's now in the dish. So this is what it's currently looking like. As you can tell, it's quite wet, but we're gonna go take this up to the oven at 400 for about 20 or so minutes. A bit longer. Surely you guys didn't think we were done being chatty quite yet. So, I don't think I entirely ended off my thoughts on the seasonality of life. Essentially, in my opinion, and even just by nature alone, we know that life is simply just made up of different seasons. And each season adds value to our existence, albeit each in their own way. Every season of life is always changing, and I've really found that if we don't adapt to these changes, learn from our experiences as a whole, that you're going to limit your growth as a person. And while sometimes we cannot control when the seasons change, we can control how we end up approaching each and every one of them. So with that, my encouragement and my desire for myself and all of us is that we can embrace every season, learn from our experiences, grow from the lessons within each of these, make those changes as needed, and keep working towards improving upon ourselves. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, main thing I want to do right now is embrace the season that we are currently in. Well, we finally cleaned it up, but I think we accidentally lost a few in the process. So the ones that currently look like birds' nests are ones that I have for sure saved, put the cardboard down to act as mulch, and then added some of the dried up hay, or straw, whatever you want to call it, around it to help protect them. But as you can see right now, we're having to go and do damage control because look, there's a tree, but he's hiding real good. Alright, so long day of work over, we got them all uncovered.
I counted, we have 61 as of today that are still living. I think last time I guessed we were around 70, so doing all right. We had a big drought the last 2 weeks, so I assumed honestly we would have lost some anyways.